Welcome to the second episode of what surfing really looks like. Rockaway, Winter Edition. These are all using the solo shot camera. There's my little new to me 5'4" Barahona fish, set up as a quad for this session. I'm wearing, let's see what color is the stripe on this wetsuit. If I can't see the stripe, it's my all 4 mil still blue. Putting on the solo shot strap right here. Always do the mittens last. Some notes for winter surfers who have to wear gloves and mittens. Don't forget the booties and the gloves go inside of the wetsuit. You gotta have the sleeves and the legs go over so you don't get flushed. All right, so I always put on my left hand first. Put my watch over my left mitten. Can take a little bit. Fold the neoprene over, and then there's my special leg trick that I've shown some people. You use your leg to roll up the wetsuit sleeve, hold it there, and put on the other mitten that way. So you're just holding the roll with your thigh, getting your mitten on, and then roll it right on down. Grab your board and paddle out where there's a channel. So this day was a little bit bigger than everybody expected. The swell came up the day before. It was a Windswell. I think this morning was like 5 or 6 feet at 8 seconds. And yeah, you'll see that it was pretty constant. The waves, not the best surf ever, kind of junky, but also kind of relentless. Here I am putting on my leash. Always wait till I'm closest to the water to put on my leash. Don't want to be running around in the sand with my leash on. And check in, making sure that I see the green light from the solo shot. It tracked mostly well this session until it didn't. And lots of different things happen with the light. There's Rob. So I was coaching Rob this morning. This was a really interesting day where there were a few CSC people out there who did not request a session, and they got absolutely lit up, which is just a reminder never to assume that I'm booked. If you want coaching, also if you see me and the conditions are hard and you want coaching and I'm there and we didn't schedule, you can always ask. Okay, so I'm going out by the jetty using the rip. You can see these sets starting to form. Duck dive, a little early. Always duck dive a little bit earlier than the whitewater, so you want to pay attention to when I start my duck dive. There I try to touch to see if I can, jump over a few, but the channel's so deep, so I can't. So it's like, all right, just gotta. And you see me getting slightly pulled away from the jetty at this point. So there's a lot of current out there. Other people are starting to paddle out. I do use the torpedo method even on the shorter board. When the whitewater's not that big, you don't really have to push out under and use all your strength. There's a little duck dive. Used my knee right there, shallow duck dive. And you see I'm really going with the current here. Now, there's no jetty in sight. So this is a sign you can always use a surfer like me to see what the rip is doing, not be in a hurry to paddle out and just, especially if it's, a person like me and they're a strong surfer and it's taking them a little while to get out. Look at this, there's another set of waves coming. I'm still on the inside, now in the middle of the beach, and made it over that one. Water's just moving so sideways. It got a little rocked by that one. You can always see when somebody pops up like that. That means the wave had some turbulent jets underneath, and I'm kicking because I'm probably pissed it's taken me this long to get out. It's been 4.5 minutes since the video started. Then the ocean finally lets up, so I kind of paddled out in a pulse. And that can happen to a person. I mean, I'm still not all the way out, right? Just barely made it over that wave. Glassy conditions, little to no wind. This day came pretty hard on shore by I want to say 8 in the morning. There was still something to surf, but the window was really short. Pretty classic Windswell event for New York, very close. The system that made these waves was very close to shore. That's why you have that small interval of 8 seconds. Also makes the waves, not the greatest in power and shape with all of that wind still on it. That's that lump that you see in the water. You might call this day like morning sick or lumpy, funky, other ways to describe this. And now I'm out there and no waves coming through. Probably just waiting for Rob to catch up. He had paddled out slightly before me. And I'm moving just a little bit. I'm catching my breath after that big paddle out. So that must be Rob right there. Legs are a little too wide apart. Something that actually we worked on for the most part. Yeah, see the wide legs of both of those people going through that wave? Pretty common mistake for beginning surfers. Something that you can really just clean up your surfing by cleaning up your legs over the back of the board. I talk about that a lot. You can see how calm my lower body is here. So I'm going to move sideways, going to take a look at this one. Once I see that it has that lump in front of me, I'm like, okay, I can't go on that one. So I didn't give it too much effort. I would say that's another thing that, people make the mistake giving too much effort for a bad one. Okay, finally going. And then I just got lipped in the head by that closeout. I'll have a slow-mo of that at the end of the video. Always a interesting way to start your session. So I had a hard paddle out, and then I pulled into a closeout and got slammed. Notice how calmly I'm paddling out though. This is energy conservation, so I'm not like in the greatest hurry. These waves aren't scary to me. They're just a little, I would say, annoying. There's good ones like that. Look at that nice little inside wave I just duck dived. Really kind of all over the place. Not a lot of sense to it. And right now, here's another. This is a long lull, I paddled out in that pulse. Looks like there are a few more waves coming through right now. See how they manifest. Always trying to read these lines. What are these lines doing? You see also with that lump on it, it's hard to see the line. That was a good wave that came through the inside. Really good one. Stayed open. I'm going to go for the one behind it. A little higher line here, and it closed out. So I couldn't really get to that section. I'll put that one in slow-mo at the end too. All right, now I'm on the inside again. Duck dive, little knee duck dive, just a shallow one. That wave didn't have a lot of power, so you're always gauging your duck dives for how much power the wave has. Another knee duck dive. That wave had a little bit more power, but I didn't have to get so far under. Here's that short interval. I mean, this is what I'm going on the 5th duck dive here in about the space of 30 seconds. Looks like I maybe used my foot on that one just to get a little deeper. At that point, the water's starting to boil. That white watery stuff I'm paddling through, that's hard to get traction in there. So you really got to, see how I'm kicking? I'm kicking because I, just trying to get some traction, trying to keep my board under my lower body. When it's boiling like that under there, it wants to take your tail away. Got a little bit of distance away from the inside there, and then I'm going to take that one on the head. That one looked like a fun wave, kind of, but really fast, a little closed out. And again, notice the pace of the paddle here. If you're in a hurry to get through what is a relentless inside, you're going to get gassed and it's going to push you back. So you kind of got to approach it like a marathon run. And also, what you notice is the better waves are not the outside waves. So there's no real hurry if you can handle yourself on the inside to get out of there, because the better waves might be the ones that just pop up while you're in there. And you want to be going slow enough to see those ones should they pop up in front of you, especially when you're surfing Windswell beach break. But, see, there's one. Look, to my point. It wasn't a good one, but I had a look. And if you're sitting outside and not in touch with the inside, you're just never going to see those waves. So, I mean, it can also be the case at a point break, or think about a crowded point break when you're paddling back out. And if you're like too in a hurry, not paying attention to the inside section, somebody happens to, fall on a good one and you're not paying attention, you could miss a really huge opportunity for an awesome long ride. So, taking your time through the inside, I mean, there are times when you also need to have intensity, and those are the times when you see that set coming from far outside and you know that if you put on the gas, you're going to be able to get underneath it. All right, here's another phenomenon of surfing. There's a lot of current moving out here. I'm only coaching one of these people. That's somebody else. I think that's Nick, my friend Nick. And we all got pulled to the same spot on the beach. So, also a little note to everybody, it really frustrates me when you didn't ask for a coaching session and you end up, there were breaks all over that were empty this morning, and these people ended up right on top of me and Rob when there were better, more appropriate waves for them to be surfing. And just, this is an overall failure of ocean knowledge in general. So, like, there's no need for us to be all crowded like this, especially when only one person is taking the coaching and there are waves all over Rockaway this morning. So, gotta say, I was a little frustrated about that out there. If you see me splash in the water at all, it's not personal. It's just I, want people to read the ocean. It's another guy, not somebody that I coach. I think he lives down the street from me. Actually think he's a surf instructor. Here I go on the inside. Again, the best waves hitting the bar on the inside. Just a little kick out there because I couldn't get the time to hit it. I'm also just trying to get away from everybody that has formed together in a clump. Again, it's a product. You can still see the water moving so much. When the water's moving like this, I always say that humans are like that trash pile in the middle of the ocean, the trash gyre. Floating objects, the ocean just brings them together. And that happens with humans when it's a rip. So in really rippy conditions, it can actually become more crowded. Even though there are waves all over the place, everybody kind of gets stuck in these gyres together. And it takes a lot of work to get out of that rhythm, out of that cycle. Again, going on the inside, but the wave didn't have it. So just having a kind of out of rhythm session, to be honest. This is why these episodes are called What Surfing Really Looks Like. It's a struggle out there, especially on days like this where, we've had a hard winter on the East Coast. There have been a few days here and there that have had fun surf, but it's been about a week of flatness in between them. So everybody's just trying to get out when they see the opportunities. And it puts a lot of pressure on individual sessions when you have, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days between surfs. Again, here we are all clumped up. Bigger, nicer wave. Oh, and I happen to be on that one too. This actually turns out to be the best wave I got on video. I'll have that one in slow motion. But the thing to take away here is how I'm seeing these inside waves. Again, the price is like kind of high because you got to keep paddling through this inside. Another option is to just go in on one of these whitewaters and walk around. Use the jetty again. But I have identified that if I'm going to get waves at all in this session, it's going to be on this inside bar in the middle of the beach. Again, there are other waves, but I've picked this bar just because I have the shorter board. The wave by the jetty this day actually was better for a longer board. It was mushier, there were long rides out there, and if you did the work to stay at the top of the jetty, it was a great wave for a longboard. But it was just too mushy for me to ride a smaller board. So I picked the middle. I saw these little inside wedges. That was my intention, was to catch these ones. And doing a lot of duck diving. So a lot of people know too that like this kind of paddling through the inside on a larger board is not easy. I mean, I'm riding a 5'4", so it's easy for me to push underwater and duck dive. Therefore, it's a lot of people's goal to be able to do this, to be able to manage the inside on a smaller board and duck dive. If you're on a larger board in that situation that I'm in, I think the walk around is the call. It's hard to duck dive this many waves on a board that you can't duck dive. So look at, I'm just caught inside again. Made it under that one cleanly, so I just needed a knee duck dive there. More sets out the back. You can see these lines coming in out the back. I'm still inside. This is a bigger set wave. Middle peak. Nice little left on it. Really good left. The right's okay as well. Definitely mushy. Nobody on it. Nobody's taking advantage of these waves. They're just getting washer machined. That one had a lot of white on it. Want to avoid waves with the white on them. It's similar to that paddling through the white. That when the water is white, it's churned up. You can see it churning there, and it's really hard to get traction whether you're paddling or surfing on the wave. So you can see that set just lit these people up, threw them onto the inside. Boards are flying everywhere. And Rob stayed clear of it because I was having Rob move around a lot more. This is another thing. When the water is moving this much, I really haven't stopped moving, me personally. It's also because I've been catching waves, but you need to stay busy. So there are sessions when you can wait a little bit longer and the ocean isn't moving so much that you can sit still. But in general, when the ocean is moving a lot, you need to move a lot. Not move a lot at a high intensity, but little constant movements, or rest, move, again, move also at a slower, more efficient pace so that you are constantly moving but you're not gassing yourself. It's really good practice also for just staying in surf fitness. I think a lot of people are putting too much energy into specific paddles and that they get tired faster that way. You could have a longer session if you just pace yourself. So in a way, we do some kind of sprint paddling very incrementally as we enter a wave, but for the most part we're doing kind of marathon paddling, slow, good form. So now Rob and I finally broke free of the crowd, sitting in front of the poles there. There's no poles in front of those. It's our favorite little sticks at our local beach. Taking a look at this one and say no. So again, you can look and not go. I call it shopping. You don't have to buy. I buy the next one. Inside wave has a little bit of white on it, closes out, and no. So that's also another form of shopping. It's just to go, chance it. You could see this is not an easy session. High intensity in terms of duck diving, paddling maintenance. Yeah, looks like I was out the back behind that one. Not a lot of good waves ridden so far. We're about 20 minutes into the video. Looks like a little lull. So the other thing I want to say while there's a lull, there's no actual physical example of this in the video, but I do see people, get antsy during lulls and try to paddle around and look for waves that don't exist. Sometimes you really have to, you need to accept the information the ocean is giving you, which is when there aren't waves, there aren't waves. It's not that you are missing something, it's that the ocean is calmed down for a bit and you just have to ascertain okay, this is a lull. You can see some heads walking past the camera. They're doing the walk around. Me and Rob, just that constant maintenance to stay, not getting sucked to the west. You see the moment we stop, you see Rob's head just moving to the right of your screen. So this is a day where the ocean is just not gonna stop with the rip. And I'm moving past it a little bit because I feel that out there. And I'm getting Rob to do it too. Now I have him have his feet up to engage his knees and thighs in the surfboard for more efficient paddling. You can see he's struggling still a little bit, keeping his knees over the back of the surfboard. And stopping a little early. What I'm trying to do is over paddle where I really want to sit so that I can sit down and get dragged back into position. So that's always, like if you want to rest, and strangely, you have to do a little more work so that when you rest, you're going to move, and that as you're moving, you're going to move into the position that you want. So you're seeing me, so the camera's tracking me, right? Like I'm going to move into the middle of the poles where I'm sitting. So I am getting to catch a breath here during this lull, and the ocean, but it's not going to be long, right? Let's see how long it is until I start moving again. Some funky rip current thing still happening. Now I'm directly in front of the pole. Gonna take a look at this one. And it closed out. So, and I'm like probably halfway down the beach after just shopping for that closeout. No pole in sight now, like I said. Just that one little wave took me like 50 feet to the right. The set did all the work for the crowd though. Bye bye crowd. The set before this lull. This is a pretty long lull, even though I caught that little closeout. And these little inside waves, take note, they're not good. I mean, if your plan is to ride some of these whitewaters, which I actually did with the next client, that's great. Way inside of there, a few little whitewaters. Similar, like on a longboard, if you can get, look how much water's moving. Those little inside ones would be okay, but the work you have to do is extra, super extra. I mean, you'd have to be paddling to catch those little ones you see in there, like this little left coming through, that thing. On a longboard, it's super doable, but you'd have to paddle 50 feet inside and then do the walk around. So if you want those inside waves, you have to know it's way more work. You have to do twice the work that we're doing here. This one's popping up, looking kind of clean. I'm getting under it. Nice little section. I always want a barrel, but that one wasn't doing it. Time it a little bit early. Maybe that was my second best wave of the session. And it's gathering my board. I'll have that one. I have my, what is it, five waves worth looking at from this 50-minute session in slow-mo at the end of this video. Water's waist deep, tide's getting higher, it's the case. See, I'm trying to fight the rip with my legs here. Standing duck dive, something that everybody needs to know. And calm leg, calm paddle out, doing the work. So you want the waves, you need to do the work. This is like the huge takeaway from this session. The waves I got weren't that great. Similar to the first episode of what surfing really looks like. Surfing looks like a lot of work. Mostly work. And if you're a beginner or intermediate surfer, the weird thing is you actually have to work even harder. So those of us that are good, we're already working hard, but our systems are, we've been doing this for so long that they're relatively efficient. But you have to put in 5 times the amount of work that we do for, 1/2 of the results. So it's not fair, but when you get there, you'll be stoked. So I would recommend a strategy, for a beginner surfer on a day like this, warm up with a few whitewaters, or pick that peak off the jetty that you can't even see in this video because it's tracking me, and work hard to stay on it. Even if you don't get any waves, just work hard for position or work hard to like move inside, risk getting lit up in there. You don't want to wait in the inside. It's a place where you're traveling either in or out from, but you want to, see if you can track down one of these, like a wave like that, for example. Paddle in, sit up a little bit, get into one of those, get to your feet, go all the way to shore, walk around the jetty. Yeah, because you can see even a surfer my level working super hard just to get outside, not get that many waves. Yeah, this is surfing. This is what it really looks like. It's not all wave riding, sick action. Mostly paddling. Mostly paddling, a lot of funky waves, a lot of waves going unridden, a lot of closeouts. There's Rob holding position. Again, that was like mostly the goal for him today. You'll see him try to take off on a few waves towards the end of the video. And I will say, like right now, the video cuts off kind of abruptly because, solo shot, it works, but it's not perfect. It works great for this though because it's just filming. A little closeout on the inside. We're too far outside to see these waves. Another little closeout on the inside. Had like a moment, but then yeah, looks. Now we see a few lines rolling in. Another little closeout on the inside. A lot of lump on it. An offshore wind would have cleaned up these conditions a little bit more. Kudos to Rob for staying in position with me. It's not easy for him. Not easy on a longboard out there. You've seen how much duck diving needs to go in. Somebody on the inside, again, struggling. A lot of water in there. A lot of energy on that sandbar. I think that's Nick I'm having a chat to. Nick is a physical therapist. Splits time between New York and Seattle. I think he's from Seattle. And did some coaching with him a while back. He's a little bit of an advanced intermediate surfer. Got him off small equipment onto mid lengths. Surfing good, doing turns. Okay, now we have some action out the back. Somebody making a go for it. Rob making a go here. Right idea. Trying to get to his feet. Oh, just couldn't get to his feet. And the wave was a closeout, but he made an attempt. I'm going behind him. Seeing what it will give me. It's a little cutback. Not a lot of juice in that one. Did all that I could do, to my mind. Interesting thing, just to note, this surfboard I'm riding, it's the one, so I used to ride that bluefish. If anybody's like seen other videos on here, I had this favorite bluefish that Jose shaped me, and I left it in Nicaragua. A little bummed out because the kid I left it with like never surfs it, so eventually I'll go back and maybe just surf my board again. But it was a magic board. I'm gonna try to get this one was supposed to be the same thing, but then it came with 4 fin boxes, and I asked Jose, does it work the same with 4 as with 2? And he's like, oh yeah, it could be ridden as a twin or as a quad. And I've ridden it as a twin, and honestly, I did not like it. It didn't have the magic feel of the other one. The board feels a little smaller than the blue one. The outline is a little bit different. And then I'm like, well, somebody put 4 boxes in here, so maybe it wants to be ridden with 4 fins as a quad. And I put the 4 fins in actually the session before this one, which was the day before. Super fun waves, nobody out, middle of the day, 2 p.m. And the board worked a lot better. So here I'm riding it as a quad, and I think I probably will always ride this board as a quad because sometimes you just have to find the fin setup that the board kind of was designed for. I know Jose wanted it to do double duty, but somebody else, whoever put those fin boxes in, had the right idea with whatever the outline is saying to go with the quad setup on it. So probably always gonna ride this board as a quad. Just a little interesting tidbit while Rob and I are catching no waves, So that, again, nothing happening out there except for a lot of closeouts, a lot of rip current, a lot of movement, a lot of work. Little right on the inside there. This little inside left is a closeout with a white watery face. Rob and I chatting about, I'm clearly talking about his knees and thighs pushing into the tail of the surfboard. I usually use that punching motion to talk about the pressure you need. Catch the wave with that part of your body. There was a cool little inside left. Just imagine that we're doing all this work to stay in position, and yet there are waves that neither of us can see going unridden. It's a very hard place to sit. It's hard enough to sit outside the breaking waves, even harder to sit inside the breaking waves. All right, something lumping up here. Some mirage waves. Rob, going a little deeper. Doing the work, keeping his legs up, keeping his heels up. I do a little shopping there. No go. That looked like a fun little wave on the inside. I would have had to be a lot deeper and a lot further inside. It didn't have that much either. And the other thing, you can see the waves are going with the rip. So they're getting like a lot of their speed and power from the rip, but that's not the same kind of speed and power as coming from the swell. So when you're up and riding on them, they're really gutless. So it's a very strange thing with these close to shore windswell events that they can be relentless and annoying, but then when you're up riding the wave itself doesn't have a ton of power. There's a good little right. Regular foots. Keep your eye on those sneaky rights in New York. New York does have rights. It is not true that it is all lefts. And another little lull. Lulls can be super disorienting because you're not ever sure if you're in position. No waves are helping you. All right, little one. Rob, no. Thing just backed off. But on the way inside, look at that is, just from the visuals, a really great wave for a beginner intermediate surfer on a longboard. Another one right behind it. Again, have to be savvy enough to know that those ones existed and do the work to move in to catch them. Be lucky enough to be in position when you did that work and not get caught inside, caught in the washer machine. Now we have some movement out the back. So that's like just this thing, right? You have to pay attention to so many things, like the inside and the outside, where the waves are breaking, and then when to be where. This one's rising up all of a sudden, as wind swells do. Rob just couldn't get the right angle on it. It would have closed out on him anyway. Somehow knocked him off his board. And then those sets that were coming, are they coming or are they a mirage? So it's the other thing about Windswell is you can see something coming from out the back and it can completely dematerialize by the time it comes in. On the flip side, you could be sitting there during a lull and all of a sudden a good one pops up out of nowhere. Another little thing I'll say when you're surfing Windswell, especially if you're a New York surfer, but in general anywhere, the wave behind the wave you think that you want is usually the better wave. So like you'll see one, it rises up and then literally just 20 feet, 10 feet behind it, a better one pops up right on the back of it. So it's important to anticipate because the one in front of it has enough wave height, you might not at first visually see the one that's right behind it. So it's just something to look for, pay attention to on your surf checks during windswell events. I'm talking about windswell as opposed to ground swell, but honestly most good swell events on the East Coast are windswell events. And also, as I teach in my oceanography classes, it's a misnomer, all swells come from wind. It's just that ground swells travel for longer and the lines are more organized, usually a little more spaced apart, so they have a slightly larger interval. But that interval, what constitutes ground swell, is different per the ocean or ocean basin that you're surfing in. Right, here's a little set. You can see how I'm going to go for this one. This was the one, like I said, right behind the other one. A little pump, close out. didn't even want to try a maneuver there. So it's been about 10-15 minutes since I caught a wave, and then the one I caught sucked. But back to the thing about wind swell and ground swell. Okay, so all swells that we surf in the ocean are generated by winds. The winds create the bands of energy that travel through the ocean. As you can see, these little bands of energy coming in, waves are bands of energy. These waves have local wind affecting them as well. So that lump and bump that you see on top of the wave is it in a way is another kind of swell, but it's a very small, even more local one that is crossing up the larger one that was generated by harder winds that blew the 24 hours prior to this. So there was a moment the day before when the waves were glassy at 2 p.m. Similar size to this, a little bit bigger, had a similar lump on them. Nice glassy period from about, let's say, 1 to 3:30 p.m. Then the wind came hard on shore from 3:30 through the middle of the night, through the early morning, glassed off at dawn, and that residual lump was left over. And then I think the following day was pretty flat and choppy again. A lot of closeouts coming through the inside here while Rob and I chat some more about how to find these things. This is the non-aerobic part of surfing. We're sitting, letting the rip take us. Pretty soon we're gonna have to do work again. See when it is. A little set coming on the outside. See if it materializes for us. Looks like it kind of died down as soon as it popped up. Tide's changing, tide's getting fuller. We have moved past the pole. We're probably chatting about similar things in the water to that I'm talking about right here. If you're watching from home, the very boring aspects of surfing, waiting for waves, not paddling for waves we can't catch like chickens with their heads cut off. And we've moved a lot with the rip here. Here's something that's starting to materialize. I'm explaining to Rob, seeing these lines coming in. We're probably gonna have to start moving now, try to adjust our position for these things or hold our position. Here comes something. Nope. Too little, too lumpy, too closed out. See that wave right behind that one though? That's Windswell for you. They're really, the space between each individual wave is so short. That is the physical manifestation of that smaller interval. So anybody struggling to read buoys, again, remember this is an 8-second interval, 5-6 feet at 8 seconds. This is equating to what? Chest high waves. So you don't have 5-foot waves. These waves are more like we would call these 3-foot, 2 to 4 foot waves. The biggest sets are about 4 feet, we would say. Oh, there was a good little insider. Man, you gotta hunt if you're gonna find those ones. We can't even see that wave. And that if the interval was a little bigger, you'd have a little more space between the waves. Another little good one. You know, we actually, I think, sat too long, stopped hunting, and we're just not seeing the waves that are breaking inside of us. So that's really common. I find that people like, even, you know, happens to the best of us, we look too far outside and we lose our attention on the inside where the waves are, you know, breaking more. We also know that like it's so much more work to get to those ones. So maybe you just don't want to do the work. That's fine, as long as you know like that's you not doing the work. It's not that the waves don't exist. It's just that you can't see them. Now we're starting to move a little bit more, trying to get in position. Another little inside wave, cute little insider. In order to catch that wave, you'd have to get a lot on the head, miss most of the sets. Rob's going. Go, Rob. Go, go. Just couldn't quite get into it. That would have been a good one. He would have had to move more to the peak to get into that one. We just both got drifted out of position a little bit more. So the work and the maintenance required to be in position for those waves is uber extra. One thing that I would say that Rob and I could have done that we didn't do was we both could have just sacrificed some time in the water, come in, had another look at it, and really seen what the camera is seeing, right? Like, we have lost sight of what the solo shot can see, which is that the better waves are happening inside of us. And usually one realizes such truths a little bit too late when you're tired, your session's done, you come in, you like think it sucks out there, you're like, fuck, it sucks out here. Then you go in and you see tons of sick waves. So you're like, why couldn't I see those when I was out there? It's because all of us get a little bit lost to sea, when you can be disoriented by being in the ocean. So it's important sometimes to get out of the ocean, reassess, maybe it is terrible. Maybe you were not accurately apprehending how long it was in between sets. Maybe it's just all closeouts and there really aren't that many good waves coming through. I mean, what it looks like here is there really aren't that many good waves coming through. But there are waves, just not a lot. Or let me put it differently, there are a lot of waves. They're all on the inside. They're all pretty small and mushy. And they're all a lot of work to get to. So there aren't a lot of easy to get into, easy to position for good waves coming through. This is a session where the experience of the session is that there doesn't seem to be a ton of rhyme or reason, and that's really common for beach break surfing in general, unless the swell, sandbar, local wind combinations are just on point. And you do have days when things line up where everything's really mechanical and it's really easy to find the rhythm. And actually probably the next episode that I do will be of one of those sessions where it's easy to apprehend where the peak is at and you just keep going back and hitting that thing like a hamster to the sugar water. This is not one of those sessions. This is a jumbly, wobbly, lully, tricky Windswell day in New York. And the water's pretty cold. I'd say we're surfing in about 39-degree water. I'm moving to the shoulder for that one. See the little wave behind it. Thing's gonna rear up, and then look, this is the thing where I'm talking about. There's the wave behind this one. See what it looks like. Nice little close out on the inside. One behind it, not good. Again, there's that short space though, just for pattern recognition. These sets, the space between the lines is very short, a very local wind swell. Rob going, and there's that lump, just would not let him in. Again, he was off the peak a little bit, so Rob would have been better off paddling to the left of the screen, sitting up, turning, and going for that wave. It's a very common beginner mistake to just go for the wave from where you're sitting in the water. You need to move to the peak, especially in peaky beach break, usually in lumpy conditions. If you paddle into the wave where there's a lump, the lump's not going to let you in. You have to be under the lump. You can't get under the lump, you should just give up. So it's a good way to think about surfing lumpy beach break conditions is whether you're under or behind the lump. If you're behind the lump, the wave is not going to let you in. Yeah, just sitting here, doing more work, not catching waves, surfing. It's like fishing, Fishing is not reeling in fish. Fishing is casting out your line, reeling it back in, not catching anything, waiting, watching the end of the rod. Catching is the fun part, but all the work has to be done in the casting, waiting, hunting, finding. And some days you catch more fish than others. Some days you catch more waves than others. This is a very low wave count day for everybody. Low wave count for me, even lower for Rob. You know, look at this thing. Yeah, I'm going. Desperate. Got so desperate, I went on a closeout. Jump off. Bye-bye. Ooh, look how much rip is down there. But now I'm on the inside, which is good. Sometimes you gotta go for those closeout ones. Just get yourself in a different perspective. Like, remember, I was sitting out the back all that time, not seeing little inside nuggets going through. And I will sometimes just catch a bad one to reset and even to duck dive, right? Because now I can see the good ones. Now I'm like, oh, it's all on the inside. It's all here. It's all these waves that I'm duck diving. These are the ones that I need to be catching. So, again, from the earlier part of the video, I'm going to paddle slow through this inside. Actually, my best wave this session happened when Solo Shot stopped recording. And the other thing, I think Solo Shot, just like all cameras, has a little bit difficult time in the cold. Both the tags and the camera itself. You know, there's Roger. Tough sesh, Raj. Sorry I got annoyed at you. Should have taken coaching. Raj takes plenty of coaching, but he should have asked for coaching this day. A little above a lot of people's pay grade. Hard conditions. Super hard. And it's funny to say that too, right? Because the waves aren't that big. It's just so much work. It's like the huge takeaway. These kind of conditions, they make you a really good surfer though. Because if you can figure out these kind of very difficult conditions, easy ones, I mean, they're easy. Because this is like strangely, like, this is as hard as it gets. In terms of surfing, like the kind of waves that we surf. Tricky, windswell, lumpy, funky, beach break. Where the waves are, here I am going on the inside. Let's see what this one does. Looks like a shitty closeout. Yeah. I know it's on the inside. And, you know, that's another skill that people just also need to learn, is how to take off on a closeout and not commit to it fully. You see it close out. Casually get out off the back of the wave. And again, I'm just going to keep paddling slowly through here, because this is where I finally know this is where the waves are at. And the only way to stay there is to just move slowly through it. The desire to be outside of the inside resting is so strong. I mean, nobody really wants to be sitting inside being pelted on the head by waves. But on the other hand, you do want to be catching and riding waves, and if they're all there, you know, that's like the psychologies. You have to say, well, I'm going to have to get the bigger sets on the head in order to get the waves that I actually want. So look, I've sat inside of these people. I'm about 20 feet inside of them. And because I'm comfortable getting sets on the head, which is visually hard because the sets always look like the better waves just because they're bigger, but they don't necessarily hit the sandbar right. Especially this day. You see, the sets had more lump in them. They were more inclined to close out. The better waves were hitting that inside bar, standing up a little bit better, and offering a longer ride. So here I am, going on the inside, taking a look at this one. Nope, close out. So, you know, I just was out of rhythm, which is important to see. The 2 episodes so far of what surfing really looks like are 2 of my more out of rhythm sessions, which means that, yeah, definitely due for an in rhythm video so you can see the contrast. But I think it's really important that people have some evidence that everybody has out of rhythm sessions. Certain conditions are just incredibly difficult to surf, and you're not crazy. It's hard. It's hard and tiring, and there's a lot of paddling, You need to learn how to duck dive eventually. And if not, you have to figure out the little tricks, like walking around, turtling, staying on the inside in waist deep water, jumping over waves until there's a lull. Because what the other thing we've seen, there are lulls too. So, we can't all time it perfectly to paddle out in a lull, but if you have a bigger board, it's a little bit more ideal. And the video is gonna, somebody got it, I think that was Nick over there, got a good one. Video of the actual session is gonna end abruptly pretty soon, probably with no more waves ridden, and then we'll move into just the 5 slow-mos, and then it will be done. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the frustrating agony and joy of surfing shifty beach break. Here we go, slow-mo time coming up. Here's the first wave, kind of zoomed in a little bit, getting underneath it. I am kicking, high chest, legs hit, that left hand gets right into the wall, and then I'm a little late, I'm a little tall, and my head gets stuck in the lip, and I go down with the lip. That's just a little comedy for you. Next one. Kicking less, not at all kicking. Got a better glide into this one. High chest. Push through with the feet. This one has a little bowl to it. Little pump. I'm hoping for the end section, and I really just basically missed my opportunity. That was the section I should have hit. Instead, I'm late, and I'm just going to go for something as opposed to nothing. That wave in a pro contest would be a 0.70. Nothing. I just pumped. All right, here I am again underneath everybody. So when I did get the good waves, I was under it. Under the lip, back, forces that whitewater back. This was one of my better waves. Late takeoff. Trust myself that I can get to my feet. A little bottom turn here. This little check, speed check to get myself in that higher part. Loading up for the end section, and I don't do a lot of force here. Just keep that hand over my left foot, ride down, little floater. Try for a bonus. That probably would have been a 2.5. But a lot better, right? Completed. Again, what's the theme here that I talked about the whole video? When I got the good ones, I was underneath it. I was on the inside. All the work had to be done to get underneath these waves. Here I was hoping for a little tube. You'll see my desire, my hope. I always get stuck in that. Then I realize, okay, no, I see this end section. I see that it's going to close out. And I don't put all of my effort into this one. I'm just going to push really lightly, get my board above the lip, probably reach for that rail. Yeah, there's the reach. And then just absorb the bounce. Kick my board out because it's fun. One hit wonder. Give that one a 3.5. And this is the last one on the video. Again, underneath it, on an inside wave. Those were the waves to target. In the position where I wanted to be, in front of the poles. Trying to get enough speed to do a turn, so I'm not in a hurry to turn. Gonna scoop that butt down, higher line, and I'm gonna project out onto the shoulder for this cutback. Project out, reach the foot back, get the board on the rail. I almost fall there. Recover. Back to the whitewater in a crouch position, and that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll hit you up with an in rhythm session next time I do one of these.